So my mom stayed at the house with us, and I remember he would sometimes want to come over to come see us, but my mom was like, she didn't want to let us come outside. So my dad would come home, like sometimes come over, and he'd be sometimes still kind of drunk, and he'd be like banging on the windows, like let me in and stuff like that. Yeah, and so my mom would sometimes still have to call the cops. And I remember one time like he came over and he was drunk, and he was like, I just want to see my kids, and he was banging on the windows and stuff, and I was like, no, like I'm gonna call the cops from his work, as I guess he didn't have a car at the time. And we'd see him walking, and we saw him walking towards us. So me and my brother were like kind of scared of him. So we ran to the back, and he kind of chased us. Like he got there pretty fast. And we where we used to live at, there was a like apartment complex in the backyard, and they had a privacy fence, and then it was our chain link fence to our yard, and they had like a private fence where you can like kind of like, I guess some of the fence was kind of torn, so you could kind of like squeeze through there and try to like go to the other side of the apartments in the back. Mm-hmm. And I guess he caught us to where we're in between the gates, so he started like slamming the gates, like yeah, like against us,
like smashing you.
Yeah, he was smashing me and my brother. We're like, like he was just like that, like just real mean, just real cold blooded. Like yeah, just he was, and I guess he became our stepfather too. I'm sorry I didn't say that, but yeah, they got married.
That's a big detail.
I just thought about that right now. They got, because it's been a while since I've actually thought about it, but
yeah,
they got married. Yeah, they got married.
Because how old were you when you had your son?
I was about like 21 maybe.
Okay, so it was a little right before you met her, or around the time you met her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you ready for a kid at that age? Nah. I mean, with all the partying you were doing, were you?
Nah, I wasn't ready, yeah. Well, she told me like, I mean, she couldn't have kids or something like that, and so it just happened, you know, it's just... Yeah, she's like, I can't have kids, and I was like, oh, okay. And so I thought
you fell for that.
Yeah, she got me, but I mean, I love my son, you know, like I don't.
Of course.
You know, it's just happened, you know. It's I don't, you know. So it's just as she did, she would cry, like she would call me crying. She'd be like, "Where you at?" And I would answer for a little bit, and I'll be like, "I'll be back later." Like I'm not. I'll talk to you later, and I would just hang up with her. And I wouldn't answer the phone, and she put up. I still ask her to today. I'm like, man, how did you put up with me? You know, like, because somebody would have already left me a long time ago. You know, like I put her through that for years, like the same. Like I was very unstable. Like I was have job from job. Like I was like dead end jobs, like temp jobs. Mm-hmm. I was like sometimes I wouldn't even be able to pay the rent. Like we'd have to like move out because I wasn't able to pay the rent, or I would always have to be asking like our parents for money and stuff like that too, or we'd get like a light bill, like you know, like the red letter on the door, like you know, you have to pay your light. Just not a good example to my kids or my wife. Just, like I couldn't sleep, like I wasn't sleeping at night. Like I was just since that day I wouldn't sleep at night. Like I wouldn't sleep probably like about 1 hour.
Oh wow!
So she's like, let's go to the doctor, and then so they took me to. Because we weren't going to church or nothing like that, so I didn't know what I know now. But it was something. It was spiritual or something. Yeah. So because I wasn't living right, and she took me we went to like a psychologist, and he's like, yeah, they died. He's like, what's wrong? And he started telling me. I ain't never been to a psychologist before, so I was just kind of like, I actually had. Oh no, they gave me a number to call from my job. They said call a counselor, and they're gonna see what they can do to you. So I didn't know. I was like, let me call the counselor. And they're like, we're going to give you a number to the psychologist or something like that. And they were trying to talk to me, like, what was wrong with me, whatever. And I went to the psychologist, I made an appointment, and then they're like, yeah, we're diagnosing you with major depression and what do you call it? Insomnia or something like that. Everybody was already like almost giving up on me, kind of like, what are we going to do with them? You know, like he's just there, like he doesn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't have a haircut. My hair was like, it was a big afro, you know. Oh, wow. It was bad. Like it was.
What would you do? Like, would you just literally?
I would just kind of like just lay on the couch, just kind of look around, like I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere.
Would you think about stuff, or like not even really? Like you can, like it wasn't like you were contemplating or something, or.
It was crazy. Like
you're just a zombie, right? These
kind of like zombie-ish, kind of like just like it was crazy, man. Like just like crazy battle minds, like just. Like, I don't know, man. Just, I felt like it was in my head. Like, it was just, I don't know. It was crazy. Like,
so were you still partying at this time too, or you didn't even want to
party? After that, like, I stopped, yeah. No more alcohol. I didn't do nothing. Like, I stopped. I didn't want to party or nothing, man. I was just like out of it. Like, just, it was weird. Like, I was zombied out, like you said. Like,
so
it was crazy.
How long did that go on for?
He's like, are you tired of being the way you are? You know, are you tired of being like, you know, broken? Are you tired of just like, I just felt like God was pulling me, man. Like, he's like, he put an altar call and I was just like, man, I need to hit that altar, man. And so, I went up to the altar and I was just broken, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he begged, brother from Pastor Ruby's, I think he's a pastor now. He begged, he's like, you feel that? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I could feel something inside. Like, I don't know how to explain it at the time. I know what it is now. And then he's like, that's the Holy Spirit. And I was like, oh.
So when she started going to the church and she got saved and stuff, then did you notice a big difference with your marriage?
Oh yeah, way different.
I mean, like, cause she quit all the partying and trying to do all that stuff too. So now you guys can finally focus on God together and
our kids
and your kids together, raising them the right way.
Yes.
So how was that?
Welcome back to another episode of LifeSpeaksPodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to give a shout out to the Choosing Hope Foundation. Go to the website choosinghopefoundation.org. See what they're doing over there, man. Wrapped around prison ministries, just doing big things out there. Check it out if you want to donate, or if you just want to see, or if you just want to just check it out and see what can happen. Hey, just see what can happen. Check out LifeSpeaksPodcast.com and be up on the info about our podcast. And thank you so much for watching. If you want to donate, you have an option on there. Next, the Potter's House, GRA.com with our church, the Universal Church in Universal City, Greater Randolph area, 2025 Universal City Boulevard. Come and check us out, see how God's moving. Let's check out the website. Once again, it's thepottersHouseGRA.com. And man, just see how God is just moving over there. And it is awesome. Like, subscribe to our podcast, ring the bell so you get all the notifications. And thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Daniel. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Liz.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today. We have another good episode for you.
Yes.
We're joined today by Mr. Mike from the Kirby Church. Thank you for joining us.
Yes,
Hello.
thank you.
Thank you for having me here.
Glad to have you on.
Yes.
Learn more about you. Okay, so I explained a little earlier of kind of what we do. So we'll go ahead and just go back to the beginning of your life. Kind of talk about your life growing up, what your family life was like. Your father, was he in the picture? That kind of stuff. So go ahead.
Well, growing up, my mom and my dad were married at a very young age. My mom was probably about 18. My dad was probably like about 22, 23. And then after a couple of years, well, I guess they had us, of course. My sister first. So my sister, Michelle, I don't know if y'all know, but she's in the fellowship too, but she's at Pastor Ruby's church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's married to Michael Gonzalez, the pastor at Pastor Ruby's assistant. And so, of course, she's the oldest. And then it's my my other sister. My oldest sister, she's about 44 maybe. And then my other sister is about 40, I'd say about 41 maybe. And then I have a brother that's about 30, 38 maybe, 37. And I'm 39. So there's four of us. Yeah.
Were you born in San Antonio?
Yes, we're born in San Antonio. Yes.
So how old were your parents when they had you?
I'd say my dad was probably, I don't know, maybe like 27 maybe.
Okay, so he was already established.
Yeah.
He didn't have you younger.
Yeah. And my mom was probably like about, I'd say about 19, 20 maybe. Or 21 maybe, somewhere around there. Yeah, so they were pretty young.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah. Sorry, my glasses are getting foggy. I can't barely see out a little bit. Okay, there you go.
Do you need some tissue?
Oh, I could probably just clean them real quick. Sorry about that, guys.
No.
So what was home life like? How were your parents? Were they?
I mean, we used to go do normal things. We'll go to the zoo. We'll go to.
There was no drama in the house.
Not well. My dad used to like to drink a lot at a young age. that was one of his problems, I guess. He would like to drink a lot, and my mom, they would get into arguments, I guess, because of that. My mom wasn't really a drinker, and my dad used to like to go after work and drink some beers with the guys, I guess, and then come home and probably still want to drink more. And then my mom never used to really like that, so they start kind of arguing and stuff like that. And then we used to see that, and then my mom would have to, I guess, call the cops and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the cops would show up.
Did he get like abusive or violent, or just start causing trouble? Like, what made her call?
Yeah, just causing trouble. Like, just kind of like, after a couple of beers, you kind of just
act like an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just kind of like just yelling, and he'd be yelling at my mom, and my mom would be like, call the cops and this and that, and we just kind of be like, we didn't really understand. We just kind of knew like what's going on here, like and then cops would show up, and my dad would be all like just yelling, and they'd handcuff him, and he'd go to jail sometimes. Yeah, so.
Was that scary for you and your siblings to see? Like, were you like, oh, or did you guys kind of like, oh?
Sometimes sometimes my dad would get kind of like a little bit violent. He wouldn't really like hit my mom bad, but like he would just kind of like grab her, like pull her and stuff like that. Not too like, just kind of a little bit physical, but not too much. And just kind of like
manhandling.
Kind of a little bit, yeah, something like that, a little bit, yeah. And then and then he'd go to that. Sometimes they have to call the cops, and the cops will show up, and he'd go to jail and stuff like that. Yeah.
And so you saw that as a young child. In your notes, you put that they divorced when you were 5.
Yeah, probably after a couple of years of being. Well, my sisters were older already by that time already, but I think I was probably around 5 or 6. Yeah, when my mom's kind of like
she was just done with the drinking, or
yeah,
was there other issues?
I think it was mainly the drinking, because my dad was still kind of like wanting to drink and stuff like that, and I guess that just kind of like pushed my mom away.
Did he cheat on her? Because usually, along with drinking usually comes infidelity.
I don't think he ever cheated on her. Like he loved my mom, but he just had a bad drinking problem.
Okay,
and my mom was not really. I guess when they got together, they were just both raised differently, and he was more like into the drinking and partying. My mom wasn't really like that. I guess she probably found out that later. So
like, what I get myself into?
Yeah. So after that, they probably like around 5 or 6. That's when they divorced. And
was it a messy divorce? Like, do you remember like them fighting a lot even after the divorce?
Yeah, after like divorced, my dad left the house. I guess he wanted to go live with his mom, my grandma. And so my mom stayed at the house with us. And I remember he would sometimes want to come over to come see us, but my mom was like, she didn't want to let us come outside. So my dad would come home, sometimes come over, and he'd be sometimes still kind of drunk, and he'd be like banging on the windows, like, let me in and stuff like that. Yeah, and so my mom would sometimes still have to call the cops. And I remember one time, like, he came over and he was drunk, and he was like, I just want to see my kids, and he was banging on the windows and stuff, and my mom was like, no, like, I'm gonna call the cops. Excuse me, the chili's kicking in. Sorry, guys. It was some good chili.
So the drama still continued, even after. So how long did that continue for? Like throughout until you guys grew up, or
probably pretty much till we grew up. It's our older years, like probably to maybe I'd say like mid-20s, maybe.
Oh, okay. So was your dad involved in your guys' life? Like, would you, when he was sober, would you still go spend time with him and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so he wasn't absent.
Yeah, he wasn't absent. Like, he was still there in our lives. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, they would get into, like, when that happened, when they divorced, he would still come over. He would still, like, try to see us. I guess my mom really didn't want him coming around because of that, because they had just kind of just divorced. So, he just, I mean, he would still try to come see us and stuff like that. And when he was sober, he wasn't always drunk. Like he would drink, like once in a while. But like when he did drink, like he would drink a
lot.
Yeah, he was kind of like pretty much drunk.
Blackout.
Nah, not that bad. I don't think so.
Okay, so he still continued drinking throughout his life, even though he lost his wife and stuff. It didn't slow him down.
Yeah, he probably didn't drink as bad.
Yeah,
he did slow down a little bit on the drinking, but he still drank though.
Did you pick up any of those habits? Or do you think not because of him, because of other reasons, you just started drinking?
Yeah, I just started drinking. Not because of him. I just started drinking just because I just thought that was, normal for like a teenager when you get that age. You kind of just start drinking and stuff.
So with your mom during this time, then, so what happened with her life after you divorced your father?
Yeah, so after my mom divorced my dad, that's when it got kind of like sad, like pretty bad. Like my mom started dating other men, and she started like being in she had met some man. I guess he lived down the street or whatever, and he he started talking to my mom, whatever, and I guess they got together, whatever, and kind of just started like same thing, like abusive. He was I think he was actually more abusive than than my dad, I guess. He would like physically like hit her and punch her,
wow.
yeah, and she was in an abusive relationship with him for a while, like a couple of years maybe. Probably like 6-7 years maybe.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
And he was abusive in front of you guys?
Yes.
What did you do when he was attacking her? Did you try to intervene, or you just?
I was still kind of young at the time. I was probably like, I'd say maybe about 8 maybe.
Okay. What about your siblings? Did they freak out and just kind of like scared of the guy, or?
Yeah, everybody's pretty much scared of him because he looked like a biker guy. Like he had like a long ponytail and beard and everything, so he looked kind of scary looking guy.
He was all intimidating.
Yeah. But I remember one time and it was still the same house where we were living at the time when my dad left. Like we were still living at that house. And I remember one time me and my brother were outside playing in the yard. And I guess he didn't really like us. I guess because we're his kids or whatever. So we're in the front yard, and he would come like walking from down the street from his work, as I guess he didn't have a car at the time. And we'd see him walking, and we saw him walking towards us. So me and my brother were like kind of scared of him. So we ran to the back, and he kind of chased us. Like he got there pretty fast. And we where we used to live at, there was a like apartment complex in the backyard, and they had a privacy fence, and then it was our chain link fence to our yard, and they had like a private fence where you can like kind of like, I guess some of the fence was kind of torn, so you could kind of like squeeze through there and try to like go to the other side of the apartments in the back. Mm-hmm. And I guess he caught us to where we're in between the gates, so he started like slamming the gates, like against us,
like smashing you.
Yeah, he was smashing me and my brother. We're like, like he was just like that, like just real mean, just real cold blooded. Like I guess he became our stepfather too. I'm sorry I didn't say that, but yeah, they got married.
That's a big detail.
I just thought about that right now. They got, because it's been a while since I've actually thought about it, but they got married. They got married.
Wow. So what did you think when they got married? Were you like, dang it?
I was kind of like just not really. I didn't really like. I mean, I was still kind of young, so I didn't really. But I know I didn't really like him. Like, I didn't want him to be like my dad or anything like that. But
so why do you think your mom stayed with him so long and got married to him?
I think she was scared of him because he was real intimidating. Like,
so she thinks she was just afraid to leave him? Yeah,
she was afraid to leave him because he said I think she told me that she ever left her, that he was gonna kill her.
Oh my
goodness. He was one of those psychos.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he so they were together for a while, I think for about 7 years maybe. And then my mom finally like said, like, we had already moved out of that house, we were living somewhere else. And I guess she had finally like got fed up with them, with her just being like that. And then she told him like she didn't want to be with him anymore. And then
was the mic closer.
Oh. And then she told him she didn't want to be with them anymore. And so he just said, you know what, you're not gonna be with me, you're not gonna be with nobody else then. And so he beat her up pretty bad, like black eyes, 2 black eyes, like just like bad. But we were at school. We didn't find out until we got home. Yeah, my mom was all bloody and just all beat up.
But how old were you when that happened?
I'd say I don't know, maybe like about 10, maybe 9 or 10, maybe something like that.
Do you remember having any like anger, emotions out of that? I mean, you're a young kid, but still, you still get all of them. Man.
Yeah, it's kind of like upset, like, like why, like, I mean, I it wasn't surprising, because he would always, he didn't beat her, he never beat her that bad, but he was real abusive, like, grabbing her, kind of like some manhandling, like just, stuff like that. But that was probably the worst that he's ever done, and like doing something like that. Oh. Yeah, I was pretty like just kind of down, like a kid. I didn't really understand, but I was kind of like mad, just kind of like just, like, why would he do something like that? Like stuff like that.
Did you ever feel helpless? Like you wish you could do more?
Oh yeah, man. But I was a little kid, man. Yeah. But I mean, yeah. I wish I could, man. Of course. Yeah. I mean, I was kind of like upset, you know. I don't think after that, I don't even think we even saw him anymore after that. Like,
So he left and
yeah, he was
left
gone for a
good.
while after that. Like, yeah, like he never came back. Like, I mean,
That's
within
good.
later on down the road, like I think ran into him, but it was years like later. Like, didn't really. He was already like older. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't really talk to him or nothing like that. Yeah.
You didn't walk up to him and beat him
Yeah,
up and be like,
thought about it. Yeah.
it's payback.
Yeah. So yeah, but
So after that relationship, did your mom learn, or did she keep dating?
oh no,
losers?
yeah, it was so after him, it was a pretty much like abusive relationship after abusive relationship. Like
Okay.
yeah, it was. I think like after my mom left my dad, she just like I guess I don't know like I guess because she was only with my dad. Like I don't know if she you know like just decided like you know I'm just gonna date or something like that or.
She just kind of settled.
Yeah,
for,
but she always picked the wrong man, you know. And I think they just used her. Like that's what I think they were just using her for just to be with her, you know.
Yeah.
And
so so growing up, even as in your teen years and stuff like that, did seeing your mom go to these bad relationship after bad relationship, did that affect you in your relationships or how the relationships you got into in the future?
Yeah, like with my mom, like I was kind of hurt because I was like, you know, like I love my mom, you know, and just seeing her with like relationship after relationship, I was like kind of like hurt, like, you know, like I didn't want my mom because I would always see it like just I already knew like even though I was young, I kind of knew like that the men were just using her, you know, and my mom was she still is, but she was younger and you know she's a beautiful woman and. She just picked all the wrong men, you know, like I guess just the places she started like going out more. Like after she left my dad, like she started like just going out, like, you know, just wrong places, I guess, bars and stuff. My mom didn't really drink, but she liked to dance a lot, I guess. So she was at the, you know, just wrong places, you know, and just meeting, you know, men that were no good and just seeing that, like, it just, I guess, it kind of hurt me. Like I didn't want my mom with nobody no more, you know. Like I would just like every time like she'd be with somebody. Like when we go to bed at night, like I would just tell her like, Mom, like just stay here with me. Like I don't want you to stay right here with me. I remember one time I wrapped a towel around my leg and I tied her around her leg and I said, Mom, stay here. Like yeah, because I already knew what those, you know. I just knew what kind of men they were, you know, and it was like that for a while, for like pretty much, kind of like through my teen years. It was just abusive relationship after abusive relationship.
Yeah, no, it's a sad thing to witness as a young child, man. When you see your mom keep falling into these things, can't do much. So so during your teen years, you didn't really have a stable male figure in your life. Like you saw your dad every once in a while, or
my dad after when my dad and my mom are divorced, my dad ended up meeting somebody else. And they ended up getting married too.
Okay.
Excuse me, sorry. They ended up getting married or whatever. And she was my stepmom. And she didn't really like us either. Like, I mean, she didn't. I guess I don't know why, but she already had kids of her own. Like, she had like 3 kids already. And when she met my dad, and they were all young, like this, kind of like the same age almost as we were. And she didn't really. I guess she didn't really like us because, you know, we were in her kids or whatever. So it was kind of hard to go to my dad's all the time because she didn't really want us around. So we kind of had to like see him once in a while, like just because I guess he would listen to her. Like she didn't want us to he didn't want him picking us up, or him, I'm sorry. And so it was kind of like hard like that, you know, like just having a relationship.
Yeah.
But he was there for us though. He did love us and all that, but I guess he would just, so he wouldn't fight with her. He would just listen to her and be like, okay, well, you know, like.
You just gave in to her. And
yeah, I kind of gave in to her. Exactly.
So how did that make you feel? Were you kind of bummed and like, dude, what the heck, Dad?
Yeah, kind of bummed and just, you know, like, man, Dad, like, so I'd have to like, sometimes my mom would be in abusive relations with other men, you know, and, you know, just having to like.
Did you ever feel rejected?
Yeah, kind of, because like I knew I had my dad over there, and I had to kind of deal with, you know, the men that my mom used to talk to, you know, and sometimes they weren't really like now we're not their kids, so they wouldn't really treat us the nicest, and so.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of like that back and forth.
So so during your teen years, when no real male figure in your life, and this issue with your dad and these losers and stuff, did you ever act out in your teen years? Like, did you ever rebel?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But like, were you a wild kid, or what?
Nah, not really. Like, just, I mean, I wasn't like looking for trouble or anything like that, but just hanging out with the wrong crowds. Like when I was younger, just, I started drinking. And
when did you start getting into the partying and the drugs?
I'd say maybe like around like 15 or 16, I started drinking.
Okay. How did you get introduced to that? I mean, I know it was kind of around with your dad and stuff like that, but
right.
were you at a party or?
I think it was, because we're all teenagers. My sisters, we're all almost not that far apart from each other. We're all like 2 years apart. So just meeting people like at school and stuff, like, what y'all want to do? Y'all want to hang out, and just someone would bring alcohol, and just start drinking
with a bad crowd.
Yeah, drinking the MD 2020s we used to drink. Started drinking that and stuff like that, and that kind of started opening the door to alcohol. I started drinking beer and stuff like that.
Did you drink a lot when you were a teen? Because I'm guessing you probably didn't have a lot of supervision.
Yeah, because my mom was always doing something, and I mean, I would see my dad. After a while, like we actually, I'm sorry, I probably didn't say that, but after leaving with my mom for a while, my dad finally, like, we moved in with my dad.
Okay.
Yeah. After a while, it was probably like I think I was like maybe like 15 and 14, I think. And
all your siblings or just you?
Just me and my brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's crazy because my sisters were living with my dad for a while, and then after a while, I don't know how it happened, but we switched. Like, my sisters were with my mom, and we ended up going with my dad.
And what was the reason?
I guess just because the girls wanted to be with my mom, and we wanted to be with our dad. And
so how did your dad's new wife, since you said she didn't like you guys, how did she take that?
Oh man, she didn't really like it. Yeah. She's not like that anymore now because we're older, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like we talk a lot and everything like that. I don't really bring it up, but.
So then in the household, how was it? Was it a lot of tension, or?
There was always arguing with my dad and her, like, because my dad knew that she didn't really like care much like for us. Mm-hmm. So there'd be times where I remember it was kind of bad. Like she had her kids, some of her stepbrothers and sisters living there too at the time, and she would let them eat first, and we'd have to eat like afterwards, like whenever. Yeah, that's how bad it was. Yeah, it was bad. And it was just things like that, little small things like that. It was just, just kind of, you're young and you're just kind of like, you feel like rejected, like kind of just sad.
Yeah, it was in your face favoritism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's real petty with it. She's like, Cinderella
story. Yeah.
Making you clean the floors after her kids.
Yeah, stuff like that.
With a toothbrush.
Yeah.
So how was your relationship with those kids? Did you guys get along or not really?
Well, I guess because of that, because you see that, and
she kind of created the tension.
Yeah, so it kind of like separated us at times. Like sometimes I remember we'd have to, like, she would take her son to school, my stepbrother, and we'd have to walk to school, stuff like that. Like, it was kind of messed up. Yeah, yeah, and that my dad would see things like that, and that would cause arguments between them and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So how long did you live with them for?
I'd say pretty much like after we. Pretty much like the rest of my adulthood, probably since 16 maybe.
Okay,
or
so
like from my teens, kind of.
2 to 3 years.
Because I was probably with my mom till I was about, since I was little to probably like maybe like 12, maybe 13. Then after that, we left with my dad, and we stayed with my dad after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Until you were done with high school? Were you still in high school with him?
No, you know what? No, I was still in high school with my mom. Well, I dropped out of school at a young age too. Yeah.
You're all over the place.
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Leaving some details out.
Yeah. All over the place, man. Yeah. So sorry guys, kind of nervous. Yeah.
So you dropped out of high school. Do you remember what age you dropped out of high school?
Yeah, I was probably like about 17.
Okay. So you were probably a junior?
Yeah. Freshman, actually. I was a freshman.
Freshman?
Yeah.
You dropped out in freshman?
Yeah, I dropped out. I skipped a lot of school, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, skip that out.
So
Okay.
was it for any reason, or you were just like, I'm done with school. I'm not. This is not my
Yeah.
thing.
I was just like, I'm done with school. Like, it's just, I mean, I was just had all these issues at home, and I was just kind of like, I wasn't really doing too good at school, man. So I was just like, I would always just skip school, and I just told my mom, I was like, I'm not gonna go back.
So what did you do after you dropped out? Just party, or did you work, or would you?
Well, I would find jobs here and there, like kind of like just jobs here and there, like kind of just Pizza Hut,
Uh-huh.
jobs here and there, and just kind of like just partying, just drinking, stuff like that.
Okay. So it sounds like you had a lack of supervision, no parental real guidance.
I mean, my parents tried to tell me, like, they would try to tell me stuff, but we wouldn't listen. Like, I mean, all of us.
Well, it sounds, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no authority. It sounds like
Yeah.
they're just like, hey, do this. You're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're doing their own thing. You're kind of like, oh, I'm going to do my own thing.
Right.
So you partied. What kind of drugs did you get into? Everything?
Pretty much it was, I mean, I smoked weed here and there, and it was more like just weed, and I did like coke once in a while
Okay.
here and there, and pretty much that was pretty much it. I didn't do any crazy heavy drugs or anything like that.
You didn't get into like selling or anything like that?
Nah, I didn't get nothing like that. Nah, not that bad.
Yeah, okay. So you never had any issues with like,
My brother did, but not me. Yeah, that was my brother.
you're supplying you or what?
Yeah, sometimes. Now my brother, he smoked a lot of weed. When we were younger, I wasn't really a smoker. Like, I would always tell my brother, like, man, you need to stop smoking, man. Like, when I'd find his stash, like, I'd be like, man, I'll throw it in the trash or flush it down the toilet or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, didn't really care much for the smoking.
Okay. So you drop out of high school. Did you ever go back to high school or did you get your GED or anything?
I tried getting my GD a couple of times, but I would only go for like a couple of days, and then I would just leave.
Okay, done.
Yeah, go back to.
So you dropped out, you were done.
Yeah.
So about how long did this last of you partying, doing drugs until you started feeling depression or feeling like this is kind of a wasted life?
I pretty much partied all the way up to my days until when I actually got saved.
How old were you?
When I got saved, I was about 31.
Oh wow.
I'm 39 now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So during this time then, I'm assuming you found a job in there
Oh yeah.
that you stayed with
Yes.
for a while, right? Or is that where you started doing the garbage stuff or
Well,
you're doing other stuff?
no. Well, I was working. Well, I had already. I met my wife, my girlfriend. Well, she was my girlfriend at the time, and
When you were teenagers or when?
no, I wasn't a teenager.
You're in your 20s?
Like in my 20s. I felt like a teenager though, but yeah, we met at work at HEB. I used to work at HEB.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my wife, she knew. Well, she was my girlfriend at the time, but she knew my sister. That's how they met, and she started like, I guess she was interested in me, and she's like, "Who's that guy?" And my sister's like, "That's my brother." She's like, "Oh, okay." So we started talking, like partying together, because my sister would always throw parties after work or whatever, because she used to work at HEB too.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of started talking like that, and then well, I let her say her testimony because she'll say it later. But so we started talking or whatever, and then that's how y'all. Should I talk about that, like a relationship, or is that a question? Or?
Yeah, no, of course.
If you want to.
So we're just going through your life. So yeah. I mean,
Okay.
We can hear from your perspective and then we'll hear from her perspective and
All
see
right.
how far off they are.
Right. So so yeah, so I met my wife at the time. I was probably like I'll say about maybe 20, maybe 21.
Okay.
She was probably like about probably a little bit older, maybe like 22. She was probably like about 18. And then so
You're not too good with dates, huh?
yeah, I'm pretty bad at that. And then so kind of started talking, we started hanging out. We started drinking and stuff like that, partying all the time.
She was, you guys are both partiers then?
Yeah, we're partying, and my sister would always throw parties at her house. And then after a while, like we'll talk off. We're talking, and then I think she stopped working at HEB or whatever, and we kind of like just stopped talking. Like we just stopped hanging out or whatever. She wasn't my girlfriend yet at the time. We were just kind of like friends. And then probably like a couple of years later, I think she called my sister. She was just like interested, like, hey, where's your brother at? You know, I haven't talked to him in a while. She's like, well, he's MIA. And so we started talking again, and then by that time, I think she already had well, they're like my kids. Well, she already had my son Jordan, and then my daughter Jalissa. I guess she had her previous boyfriend at the time, I guess. And then I already had my son too. I had my son with another girl, and so we kind of just started talking, you know, and we're just kind of like catching up on things. Like, how you been, you know, and just like this, and just talking or whatever. And then we ended up saying, you know, I ended up saying, well, you want to be my girlfriend? And she's like, yeah. So we got together, and then we after that, not that long, she moved in, and you know, we've pretty much been together ever since, you know. And but through that, like we're like, I was still drinking, I was still partying, you know, because I didn't really know how to be I guess I could say that she was my actual like first like girlfriend, I guess, because I was always like a guy that would just always just kind of like be with different girls, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And never really stayed like faithful to, I guess, to a girl, whatever.
So when you had your son, then was that an accident? Was that just some girl you hooked up with and made a mistake?
It wasn't an accident, but it was just, you know, she just kind of like, it was just a bad, I mean, it just happened.
Because how old were you when you had your son?
I was about like 21 maybe.
Okay, so it was a little right before you met her, or around the time you met her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you ready for a kid at that age?
Nah,
I mean, with all the partying you were doing, were you?
Nah, I wasn't ready. Yeah. Well, she told me, like, I mean, she couldn't have kids or something like that, and so it just happened. You know, it's just. Yeah, she's like, I can't have kids, and I was like, oh, okay. And so I thought
you fell for that.
Yeah, she got me, but I mean, I love my son. You know, like I don't.
Of course.
You know, it's just happened. You know, it's
Yeah.
I don't. You know, so it's just I kind of just went with it. You know, just.
So when you had your son, did were you did you have an avid role in his life?
I tried, but she really, I guess I didn't. She wasn't really my girlfriend. Like, it was just something, you know, just kind of like happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just she didn't really want you in the picture, or what?
yeah, well, I tried seeing him, but she really didn't kind of like want me to have anything to do with them or whatever. So I tried for a while, and I kind of I guess stopped trying because she wouldn't let me like come around.
Okay.
So I didn't see him for a while, like for probably like maybe like 5 years, 6 years.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah,
a
it
good
was a
span.
while.
Yeah, it was a good span. Yeah.
It was a while.
Okay, so then at that time, then she did let you start to have a relationship with him, or or did you take her to court, or what? Would you?
Well, she put me on, of course, you know, child support, you know, baby mama, and so child support and stuff like that. And then I think it was my sister she was like, you should go see him, you know, like she's like, you know, that's your son or whatever. And I think she's the one that called him. She called her, I'm sorry, and they started talking or whatever, and she kind of like made somewhere where like we could meet up or whatever. So we went, I think it was a restaurant or something like that, and started talking, like, and kind of she just set up like something up, and then started talking or whatever, and ever since then, like, I've pretty much been in contact with them and see him all the time.
Good.
So how was it starting up that relationship? Was he a little kind of
he was kind
timid
of
of you?
Yeah, he was kind of like a little bit kind of like, man, like
Who are you?
yeah, like, who's this guy?
How long did it take for him to open up to you?
Not that long. Maybe after like, I'd say maybe like a year, maybe.
Was that rough for you during that year? Were you kind of heartbroken, like, oh man, this kid doesn't really want me around either?
Nah, not really, because I kind of understand, like, man, like, I wasn't there, and you know, I'm just kind of like letting him take his time, you know, like to get to know me and stuff like that. So yeah. So
does he live with you guys now?
No, he still lives with his mom.
Okay, but you have an actual relationship with him.
Yeah, like he comes over like on the weekends when I can get him, because they live in Castro, I think.
Oh, okay.
So when I get a time, I'll go. When it's my turn, like I'll pick him up, whatever. Okay, have him over the weekends, and even during the summer, whatever, stuff like that.
So did your relationship with your father affect how you wanted to be a father to your kids, and then obviously to your new kids?
Mm,
Like, did that ever play into it? Do you think? Did you ever think, nah, I don't want to be like?
nah, not really, cause my dad was always, he was there, like he, even though like all that happened, like he still like loved us. He still had us around like when he could and stuff like that. Like he never really like mistreated us or anything like that, or bad anything like that. Just besides.
What about as far as the drinking around your kids? Because during this time you said you were still drinking and partying and stuff, right?
Yeah, I was still partying and drinking.
So did you ever make that connection with your dad and be like, I don't want to act like that in front of my kids like my dad did, or no?
Nah, I never really brought it up. Yeah, I guess because I was younger and I was more older. I guess now, like, I just never. I mean, my dad didn't drink. He would drink because he was younger, so he was I guess not as mature, so he would probably like drink more. But as we got older, like, he wasn't as much of a drinker, I guess, and I never really brought it up or anything like that.
But around your kids, you never like made it a conscious decision to not drink in front of them?
Oh no, yeah, I still drink. Yeah, I mean, but I wasn't like. It was more like I wouldn't get crazy drunk. Like, I mean, probably a couple of times I did that, but I never like. Yeah, I still kept drinking and stuff like that, I guess.
So I do have a question. So instead of your father, what about your stepmom? How you treated Teresa's kids when you guys got together and started living together? Was that did that affect you somehow, or you're like, oh, I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to treat him different. I'm going to treat him like mine. Did that?
I think a little bit. I think I was being like that a little bit at first when they were little, and then you know what? I kind of was a little bit kind of mean to them when I was younger. But at the time, I guess I didn't really know as much as I know now. I guess because now I come to church now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I see how I was back then, and I was just kind of like, man, like I see where I was kind of like, you know,
a jerk.
Yeah, yeah, I was kind of bad. Yeah,
yeah.
And I'm like, man, it's crazy, like how you see how you were from, you know, when you were living in sin, and how far God has brought you, you know, and how you kind of like, you know, you've changed, you know, how God has changed you, you know.
Do the kids see that now? I mean, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but do the kids see the difference in you now and are like, wow, Dad, you've changed?
Yeah, they do. They're like, man, Dad, like, you know.
So you were a jerk back then.
Yeah, they're like, I mean, I was like, do you remember when I used to drink? They're like, not really, Dad. They're like, you know, because they were so young at the time too. So, but yeah, they do see like the difference from how I used to be.
Good.
Yeah.
So how was your relationship with you and Teresa with the partying and stuff? Did you guys have a lot of drama or not really?
Oh yeah, it was a lot of drama.
Yeah.
A lot of drama.
So is it
I was bad. And so when I asked her to be my girlfriend, you know, we got together, she moved in, and then my dad was living there at the time, so he ended up moving out. I was already like probably like 22, maybe 23, somewhere around there. She moved in, and we had Jalissa and Jordan and Joel, my other son. And I was still like into drinking and partying. I still had that partying mode, like, you know, even though I was with her, like I still wanted to do what I wanted to do. Like I was selfish. So there'd be times when I would leave her at the house, and I would be gone for like probably like a couple of days.
Oh wow. So you leave her with all 4 kids? With
all the kids.
With all the kids, yeah.
Yeah, and she'd be calling me, and I wouldn't answer the phone. I would turn it off. Yeah, I was bad. So I would get out of work, and she would start work, and I would. It was like it would be Friday, and I'll be like, man, my friend would call me and be like, hey, let's go party or whatever. And I was like, all right, let's go. So, you know, I wasn't thinking at the time, you know, I was thinking about myself.
Yeah.
And so right after work, I would go home, I would change, and I would get my clothes, and I would take off. And by the time my wife would get home, she realized that, because she already knew I had everything in the restroom. Like, she already knew where, like, I had my glasses and my contacts or whatever. And she looked, and if she see that it was gone, she already knew that I was leaving the house or whatever. So, and I'd be gone probably like a Friday. I wouldn't come back to probably like maybe like a Sunday, Monday maybe. Yeah. So it was pretty bad.
And would you was it like out of town, or were you just at a buddy's house partying all weekend?
Yeah, I was at a buddy's house. Well, she knows, and
buddy's house.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Like I told my wife, but I was being
player.
Being with other women and stuff like that. I have nothing to be proud of, but yeah, yeah.
So she put up with all this.
She did. She would cry, like she would call me crying. She'd be like, "Where you at?" And I would answer for a little bit, and I'll be like, "I'll be back later." Like I'm not. I'll talk to you later, and I would just hang up with her. And I wouldn't answer the phone, and she put up. I still ask her to today. I'm like, man, how did you put up with me? You know, like, because somebody would have already left me a long time ago. You know, like I put her through that for years, like the same. Like I was very unstable. Like I was have job from job. Like I was like dead end jobs, like temp jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I was like sometimes I wouldn't even be able to pay the rent. Like we'd have to like move out because I wasn't able to pay the rent, or I would always have to be asking like our parents for money and stuff like that or we'd get like a light bill, like you know, like the red letter on the door, like you know you have to pay your light. Just not a good example to my kids or my wife. Just unstable.
Yeah, so you're super irresponsible. Just
very irresponsible. Like
focused on partying.
That's all I thought about was partying, man. Just partying all the time, because that's just like I said, I wasn't ever in a stable relationship. Like I never really stayed with like one person, so I was used to that lifestyle. Like, and I brought that into my relationship when I got with my girlfriend, and it was like that for a long time.
So when did you guys get married?
We got married like probably like about 7 years ago.
Oh,
but
okay.
we've been together for about 13 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So she stuck with you that long before you got married.
Yeah, it was a long time. Yeah, we actually got married at Pastor Ruby's church.
Oh yeah,
Pastor Ruby married us.
Oh,
Yeah, so got married at Pastor Ruby's because that's when I had got saved, and then I was like, man, this is the right thing to do, you know, like because we were married at the time, and that's part of, I guess, when I got saved, when I started going to church.
Oh, okay.
I didn't feel right, like. Because I would always hear the preaching, and I was like, man, like we're shacking up, you know. So I kept hearing that. Pastor would always talk about shacking up, and I was like, oh man, I ain't living right.
Did she get saved at the same time as you?
Or
before you, or
no, she didn't. Yeah, she did it.
so it was you first.
Yes.
For how long?
Before she got saved. I think like 5 years.
Really?
Oh, that long?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go back a little bit then.
Like reverse it.
Yeah. So before we get to that, so let's talk about your relationship leading up to you getting saved. Okay, so you're cheating. She's sticking around for whatever reason.
Right.
We'll ask her what her reasons were. But so during this time, are you feeling depression at that point? Is that like what? Talk about the depression. Why were you depressed?
I have no idea how that happened. It's just crazy. Like, I mean, I don't know if it was just I was just at work one day, and like I just started feeling like just like down. I don't know for what reason, but I just started feeling like down, and I started weeping for whatever reason. I was just crying, and I felt like a dark cloud on me, man. I don't know how to explain it, but and it was at work, and I was like, why do I feel like this? And then I couldn't stop crying. I was weeping, and then I called my wife, and I was just like, I don't know why, but I just feel like real, like just down or whatever.
Your wife? So you're already married?
No. He's saying wife because they're married now,
Yeah.
but they were just
saying that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Threw me off there. Sorry.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think we were married at the time yet. No, we weren't married yet. She was still my girlfriend, but we were already together for a long time already.
I got you.
Yeah. So I called her, and I was like, I'm not feeling right. Like I don't know why. Like I just feel down. Like I feel depressed or something. Like I didn't feel right. And she's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't know. Like and she's like, so I left work, and then she's like, well, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't know. I couldn't stop crying. Like I just felt, I don't know. It was like
the floodgates opened and it
yeah,
was all
like,
coming
like
out.
It was just like I just felt like a dark cloud over me. I don't know how to explain it, but and then she's like, so after that, like I couldn't sleep. Like I wasn't sleeping at night. Like I was just since that day I wouldn't sleep at night. Like I wouldn't sleep probably like about 1 hour.
Oh wow.
So she's like, let's go to the doctor. And then so they took me to, because we weren't going to church or nothing like that. So I didn't know what I know now, but it was something. It was spiritual or something.
Yeah.
So because I wasn't living right. And she took me, like we went to like a psychologist. And he's like, yeah, they died. He's like, what's wrong? And he started telling me, I ain't never been to a psychologist before. So I was just kind of like, I actually had, oh no, they gave me a number to call from my job. They said, call a counselor and they're going to see what they can do to you. So I didn't know. I was like, let me call the counselor. And they're like, we're going to give you a number to the psychologist or something like that. And they were trying to talk to me, like, what was wrong with me, whatever. And I went to the psychologist. I made an appointment, and then they're like, yeah, they died. We're diagnosing you with major depression and what do you call it? Insomnia or something like that. And I never had trouble sleeping before that, you know. But now that I know from now, I'm like, man, I was living in sin, you know. I had open doors to all kinds of stuff, and so they gave me medicine. They gave me a prescription for depression, and they gave me sleeping pills. But I couldn't sleep. Like for half a year, I wasn't able to sleep. Like 6 months straight. Like I would just sleep probably about 1 hour.
Even on the meds.
Yes, even on the meds. And then when I would take the meds, they make me like hallucinate. Like it was crazy. Like it was crazy, man. Like I was like out of it.
So how did that affect your attitude, your mood, just everything?
Just man, it was bad. Like before, like I would cut the grass. My house started looking like the grass was already long. The grass was growing long. Like it just looked like a depressed house. Like the kids were always. It was sad because like I remember my daughter looking at me and she's like, "Daddy, what's wrong? Like why you like that? Like what's wrong?" Like they were crying because they didn't understand like what I was going through, and I didn't even know what I was going through either myself. But now that I know, I know now. But it was like spiritual. But
yeah, at the time you were like, I don't even know why I'm like this. Yeah.
So I would just stay on the couch like that. Like my sister would come over, my dad would come over. They're like, "What's wrong with you?" Nobody could figure out what was wrong with me.
Like just like lifeless.
Just
there,
just sitting on the couch like a bum, you know. Like, and I had to take. Thank God, like for my job, like they were able to work with me where I could take time off, and I took about like 6 months off my job.
Wow.
Yeah, they were able to work with me. Thank God for that. That I was still able to keep my job. And through all that time, though, it was rough. Like sleepless nights. My wife, like everybody was already like almost giving up on me, kind of like, what are we gonna do with them? You know, like he's just there, like he doesn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't have a haircut. My hair was like, it was a big afro. You know, It was bad. Like. It was,
what would you do? Like, would you just literally?
I would just kind of like just lay on the couch, just kind of look around, like I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go anywhere.
Would you think about stuff, or like not even really? Like it wasn't like you were contemplating or something, or
it was crazy. Like
you're just a zombie, right? These
kind of like zombie-ish, kind of like just like it was crazy, man. Like just like crazy battle minds, like just like. I don't know, man. Just I felt like it was in my head. Like it was just I don't know. It was crazy. Like
so, were you still partying at this time too, or you didn't even want to?
After that, like I stopped. Yeah, no more alcohol. I didn't do nothing. Like I stopped. I didn't want to party or nothing, man. I was just like out of it. Like just it was weird. Like I was zombied out, like you said. Like
so
it was crazy.
How long did that go on for?
I'd say for like about 6 months. It was to the point where I remember one time I told my wife, like, man, she's like, what? She's like, well, you want to go like to? They took me to like a. It's like a mental institute place.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
Yeah, and I told my wife, I was like, just take me over. I think it's called Laurel Ridge or something here in San Antonio. It's like a mental institute. And I told my wife, she's like, what do you want to do? I was like, just take me over there. Maybe they could help me or something. I don't know. So I went in the waiting room and I was looking around. I was looking at the people that were there, like they were like rocking themselves like that, all crazy. And I was just like, I was like, no, I don't belong here. I was like, oh wait. And then I talked to the doctor guy there. And he's like, well, if you want, we could live in here for a week, you know, so we could do some tests on you. And then after, it was just crazy because I was like, man, like I've never gone through something like that before, you know, like it was just kind of like, it kind of like just hit me like, man, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not even a crazy person, but I'm here in this place, like a crazy place. I don't know. I was just kind of tripped out about that. Like I was thinking to myself, you know, even though I was zombied out,
yeah,
I was kind of still here, you know, like I kind of knew what was going on, and I was kind of like, man, why is this going on, you know?
So then you're living this depressed life. In your notes, you say that you went to a revival and God set you free. Yeah. So what led you up to that point? What led you to go?
So after I was going through all the depression and all that, my sister had just started coming back to Pastor Ruby's.
Okay, so your sister. She was going to church. She left and then she started going back.
Yeah, so I probably missed. I left this part out.
Is she the one that was throwing all the parties?
Yes,
she is. Okay.
So when we were younger, like go back to the reverse it. My mom took us to Pastor Ruby's when we were like probably like I'd say around maybe like I was like 10 or 12. I'm sorry, man. I should have said
That's a big
that at the
point,
beginning. Yeah, I missed that out. I'm sorry. I left that out. I forgot about that. I was thinking about that. Yeah, so we're about like 10 or 12. I think my mom went to Pastor Ruby's and my sister. We all went over there and I guess but I didn't understand at the time. Like we went to church because growing up, like we went. My mom would go to church, but she never like stayed locked in church. She kind of like
Bounced around.
yeah, kind of like bounced around. Like we used to
She
go
really
to
wasn't
this.
serious.
Yeah, I guess she wasn't really serious, or she just didn't really. I guess she didn't take it serious. So we just went with her because we just okay, it's church, you know. Like we went to like a couple of churches or whatever, and then I guess we ended up going to Pastor Ruby's, and we were there like I think for like, off and on like within like a year maybe or two.
Okay.
And so my sisters were more like kind of knew more about it because I was still kind of young at the time. I didn't really know. Like I think my sisters went to boot camp when they were younger.
Oh, wow.
Okay, because they were older, so
Yeah, so they kind of understood more. I was still kind of like naive to it. Like I didn't really understand. I just knew it was church, so I was like, oh, okay, it's church. Like it's something good, you know?
yeah.
So your sister, as a youth, was kind of involved. in
Yeah,
stuff,
like she
and
went to
then-
boot camp. Like she was more involved.
And then,
and-
so she left the church probably for a while.
Yeah, sometimes
was
with
partying and
right.
throwing all these
Exactly.
massive parties where you met your wife.
Yes.
And then she ended up going back to church.
Right.
And then she ended up getting you to go back to church.
Right. So after all that, you know, my sister ended up finally she started going back to church. And it wasn't Pastor Ruby's at first. I think it was another church somewhere on the west side. And after a while, like they were there for a while, probably a couple of months. And then I guess they didn't really like it there, I guess. So they ended up going to Pastor Ruby's. And then she started telling me, why don't you come to church, you know? And I was so like kind of depressed and all that. I was still going through it. And then I was like, I don't know, man. Like I was just like, whoa. I don't know if I was just like, okay, well, I'll try it out. They had just got, I think they were already saved like probably like 6 months before I started going. And then Mike was like, come on, man, just come to church, you know, like it's
This
good.
is your sister's husband?
Yes, Michael.
Okay.
And he's like, come to church, you know, and I was like, all right. So I think I had already started going back to work already, but I was kind of still going through it.
Mhm.
But like I was kind of like getting a little bit better, I guess. And then I went to a revival. I think it was with Pastor Tom Quinlan.
What made you go though?
I don't know.
Were
There,
you hesitant or did you feel a pull like, you know what, I better go check it out?
yeah, because I was just tired of being the way I was. I was just tired of going through it. Like I was just battling stuff, man. Like in my mind, I was just tired
You were
of
looking for a change.
like a break. Like I just wanted to I wanted to be set free, man. Like I didn't want to be like that anymore. I wanted to get out of it. Like I just felt like I was in a dark, like in a hole, and I couldn't get out of it. And so there was a Pastor Tom Quinlan. He had a revival there. Pastor Ruby had the revival there, and then he's like, "Are you tired of being the way you are? You know, are you tired of being like, you know, broken? Are you tired of just like?" I just felt like God was pulling me, man. Like he's like, he put an altar call, and I was just like, man, I need to hit that altar, man. And so, I went up to the altar, and I was just broken, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then he begged, brother from Pastor Ruby's, I think he's a pastor now. He begged. He's like, "You feel that?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, I could feel something inside. Like I don't know how to explain it at the time. I know what it is now. And then he's like, "That's the Holy Spirit." And I was like, oh, because I feel like a tingling inside. And then I felt like just like I just wanted to cry, you know, like it just felt like
Your emotions rising to the surface.
something like
Yeah.
that, yeah. And I was just like I felt like something, and all of a sudden the pastor he just prayed for me. He goes, "You just tired of being broken and tired?" He goes, "Come to the altar." And I went to the altar, I bowed my knee, and he touched my shoulder, and like, man, like I don't know what, he just prayed something, man. Like I got filled with the Holy Spirit. Like I couldn't stop speaking in tongues, man. Like
Wow.
yeah, like I couldn't stop. Like I was just like crying and like just weeping. Like I just got filled and like
So you felt the difference.
yeah, like I
Like
felt the
you
difference.
felt the depression leave?
Yeah, like I just felt like everything like just lifted off of me. Like
Oh wow.
I felt like the power of God. I don't know how to explain it, man. Like, you know, when you first filled with the Holy Ghost, like it was just out of like, I don't know. It was just something different, you know?
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so then after that experience, you go home and then what?
So after that, like, I just started little by little. I started keep coming to church. I kept going to church. Like after that, like I was like, man, I'm gonna stay in church. Like I'm gonna keep going and going. And like I started like just hearing the preaching, you know, like about medication and like you don't need that medication. You know, like God can set you free, and you know. And I was just like, man, I'm not taking this medicine anymore because it was.
So you were still taking it?
Yeah, and I was like, I'm not taking this anymore. And after that, like after a while, I just kept going to church. Like I didn't stop going. Like every time there was service, like I was just there. I was just going and just, you know, like just like everything. I just started changing little by little. Like God just started just breaking all these chains in my life, man. Like just being set free, man. Like never went back to like all the like things that I used to do, you know. And pretty much ever since then, like I've never gone back to drinking. I've never gone back
Praise
to
God.
Yeah, like none of that. Like,
Yeah.
So did you stop cold turkey?
cold turkey, man.
Oh,
Nothing.
good, man.
Yeah.
So that was a true radical change at that
Conversion, yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, like it's like they say radical conversion, man. Like it's true, man. Like I was radically converted. Like I ain't never gone back to, never smoked a cigarette, never went back to clubbing, never went back to drinking, never went back to none of that.
Oh, that's awesome. So, okay, so then now, like you keep saying, now that you have clarity of mind, you have, you know, a relationship with God, you can look back at that and you can see that was God pulling on you.
Oh, yes.
That depression was like God going, hey, you're done with this. Come on, right?
Right.
That's crazy. So, okay, so then you're changed, you're going to church. So what's the deal with you? And so you felt convicted. You're like, hey, let's get married.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, finally, let's do it.
Right.
But it's still 5 years or so. Is it 5 years or so?
Oh yeah, well, because so when I got saved, my wife wasn't there that day when I got filled with the Holy Ghost, and she was still kind of like, so yeah, she didn't really like want to go to church.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when my sister started inviting me to come to church, she's like, nah, I don't want to do that. Like that's not for me.
Do you know why?
Nah,
We'll ask her.
Yeah, you ask her. So she didn't want to go with me, so I was just like, well, man, I'm gonna keep going, man. Like I'm not gonna stop going, man. Like I need to be in church. Like I need to go, man. Like this is God. Like you know, God. I just felt, you know, and I've been to churches before, man. Like I ain't never felt that before in my life. Like just the power of God, you know, like just God just touched me, man. Like I don't know how to explain it, but I knew that God was real, man. I was like, man, like he's just radically converted, and so. My wife's like, nah, I don't think that's for me. Like, I guess she still wanted to keep doing like partying and drinking and stuff like that. Cause she wasn't as bad as me, but she's still like, you know, her share of drinking. Yeah. So I just kept going to church, and then 1 year turned into 2 years, and then 2 years turned into 3 years, and then 3 to 4, and then 4 to 5.
But you got married soon after you got saved, right?
Yeah. So she did go to church, I think for like about a month or two, and then she stopped going. Like she's like, I don't think it's for me. Like did
she get married at that time?
Yeah, around that time. Yeah.
Okay.
And then she stopped going, and then.
So how was that? How was that in your early marriage years, where you're going to church, you're trying to be saved, and she's kind of fighting?
It was kind of hard, man, because there'd be times where like they do an altar call, you know, and then I would just be at the altar crying, man, and just
praying for her,
praying for my wife to come to church, because I was doing it by myself, and I was bringing the kids with me. You know, I wanted, you know, the kids to be with me, and I would get all the kids ready to come to church. Well, my wife would help me, and she would stay home, and I'd bring all the kids with me. And there'd be times when I'd be struggling, man. I'm like, man, like it's hard because you don't have your spouse with you, you know. And I was doing it on my own. And there'd be times when, like on a Sunday, my wife would be like, let's go to my cousin's house. They're having a barbecue. And I would take my church clothes with me, and I was like, well, I'm going to leave it, you know, because church starts at 6, you know, and I'm like, I'm going to church, you know, or prayer. And then, you know, and then she's like, well, I'm going to stay here. And so I'll change over there at the barbecue, and I'll go to church and stuff like that. And I was just like, because I need to be in church, you know.
Would she ever give you a hard time about you always being in church?
Yeah. She'd be like, man, you're choosing, why are you like, you're always going to church, you know? She's like, you're always in church, man. Like, you never make time for me. You're always... You know, like, man, like, why you always in church? You know, like, golly, that's a lot of church, you know, whatever.
Did she see the difference, though, from once you got saved, that you weren't drinking, you weren't partying anymore, you weren't depressed? Did she see that change, or did she, like, see it, but
yeah, she saw it, but she wouldn't really say anything. But
okay.
I think God was dealing with her already, but she wasn't saying anything. Like, Cause I stopped drinking. Like I stopped doing a lot of stuff that I used to do before. But I think I don't know if she was fighting it. Like I guess she didn't want to. I don't know. She just might have to ask her about that.
We'll get into that.
We'll ask.
Yeah.
So what about the kids? Did you take them to church with you, or?
Yeah, I would take the kids with me to church.
Okay.
And man, I just kept praying. Like I would talk to the brother at church, and they're like, just keep being the leader. Keep coming to church. And your wife's gonna follow you, man. And I just kept that in my mind. Like I remember a pastor, what's his name? I forgot his name, but he would just tell me, he wasn't a pastor at the time, but he was like, just keep coming to church, man. He goes, the same thing happened with me. Like my wife didn't want to come, and he goes, and I just kept coming to church, man. And he goes, you lead, your wife will follow you, man. And I was just like, okay. And I just kept that in my head, and a lot of prayer and just coming to church, man. Just believing God that, God would save her, and he finally did.
So we'll get into it more with her, but what do you think it was that finally got her to submit?
I think it was just the change in me. Like, just she saw that I wasn't playing, or like I wasn't fake, like I wasn't like just pretending to be like like playing church. Like I was for real. Like I was like, man, I ain't doing that anymore, man. Like I just got like God just changed my heart. Like I just wasn't the same anymore. Like I didn't want to. Like I just didn't want to do the same things that I was doing before. I wanted to be a better example for my kids.
So was it a slow progression? Like was she like, all right, let me go to church? She started to go a little bit here and there, and then kind of wore her down, or did she have a radical conversion experience too? You don't remember? I had to ask her.
No. Well. So I was at Pastor Ruby's for 5 years, and then we ended up moving out to over here to Kirby over here, like Kirby, and
it's okay. So you made the transition to Pastor TJ and Desiree's.
Yes, but I had talked to Pastor Ruby, and he's like, yeah, well, let me know how it goes. Tell me how everything goes there. So I was like, we moved out here to Kirby, and then I was still going to Pastor Ruby's, but it was kind of like, for me, it was kind of like, man, it was hard to be.
It's far.
Yeah, I was coming back and forth, having to come to the services and everything. So I told my wife, I was like, I wonder if there's a church over here in this side of town that's the same fellowship, because I wanted to stay in the fellowship. I didn't want to go to another church. And then one day we were driving, and we saw the Potter's house on a little shopping strip where Pastor TJ's church, where our church is at. And my wife's like, look, there's a Potter house right there. And I was like, oh yeah. So I was like, and my wife's like, she's like, if you, I was like, well, I'll check it out, because I wanted her to come to church. She didn't want to come to church.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, it's closer to the house. I was like, well, let me talk to Pastor Ruby, and then I'm going to check it out. She's like, well, we'll check it out and tell me how it goes. So I went, I think it was on a Sunday morning, and I walked into church, right? And it was Miss Des playing the piano. Pastor was there. He was going to preach. And I don't know, they started having song service or whatever. And my wife, I don't think my wife went. Yeah, she didn't go because she wanted me to go first. And then I just started, like, we were praising God, just worshiping, and started speaking in tongues. And I guess Miss Des freaked out. She's like, oh man, like she thought I was,
like
this
a visitor.
Yeah, like a visitor. She's like, wow. And then I told them about my story, about what's going on. And then they were just like, oh, okay, well, I'll talk to Pastor Ruby and see how everything goes. And Pastor Ruby was fine. He's like, let me know how it goes. Let me know how your wife's doing or whatever. And then so my wife, she came. I think it was that next service, I think. And then after that, like she pretty much stayed in the church and been there ever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
It was probably like 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
And then so how was that transition to
right, the big church and now to a little
tiny little church?
Yeah. Yeah, it's different it's different, but it's, you learn, you see how it is, like in the Pioneer Church compared to like being like at the mother church, it's just you see different things, and just it's good, man. It's good. It's learning experience and growing and stuff like that. Good.
And so how far into you attending their church did you start getting involved with ministry and stuff?
As soon as I got there, man, not too
you were
long.
Wanting to? You're like, I want to do this?
Because I felt like, man, I got to do something, man. Like, I see Pastor just by himself. I was like, man, I couldn't just sit there and not do anything, man. So I was like, so me and Pastor started like pastor got me to start doing a song service. So I just like, man, I never sang before. And I was like, I'll give it a shot. So we just started singing, and man, pretty much ever since then, we've just been doing singing and doing a little bit of everything.
So you got locked in right away and started helping, being a help to your pastor.
Yes.
Good.
So backing on my pastor, and just whatever he tells me to, whatever he wants us to do, we just back him up.
Good.
So so when she started going to the church and she got saved and stuff, then did you notice a big difference with your marriage?
Oh yeah, way different.
I mean, like, because she quit all the partying and trying to do all that stuff too. So now you guys can finally focus on God together and
our kids
and your kids together, raising them the right way.
Yes.
So how was that? How was that for your kids coming into a church and getting involved and stuff? Did they take to that or?
Oh yeah, they're like, man, mom's coming to church now. Like they were excited for that.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like,
good.
yeah, they're like, because they never saw her ever coming to church. So when she started coming, they're like, oh wow, like they were excited, like, man, like now they got mommy and daddy coming to church together, So it was just like real, like just exciting, man. Just
Good.
their excitement.
Everybody was happy and excited.
Yes,
Nice.
everybody excited and happy, and just it's going good.
Good. We'll get into more about her emotions and what was going through her head.
She probably explains it better than I do.
That's good. So I'm sure you were pretty excited. Finally, all this prayer and contending finally paid off.
Yes, God hears prayers. Like, even though it took that, to me, it felt like forever, but it was in God's timing, and like God knew what he was doing, and I'm just, I never stopped praying, I just kept believing God, like I just kept praying for her, and never stopped seasoning my prayer, man, and just praying, believing God for her, that she would get saved, and
Good.
the time came, and I'm thankful to God for that.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Of course. And your mom, so she had that experience. She's the one who went to Pastor Ruby's church first and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Has she gone with you to your church?
Oh yeah, she's came to our church a couple of times. Yeah.
You're trying to. Is she the next one you're praying for? That
I'm believing God for her.
gets a hold of her.
Just for her to stay locked in, like because she'll go to Pastor. She lives right past Ruby's church. She don't live too far, like down the street. So my sisters, they try to get her to just to stay locked in, man. It's just something. I guess I don't know why it's something we're believing God for her to just stay in the church,
Just stay faithful. Yeah,
stay faithful. Exactly.
So are both your sisters saved at Pastor Ruby's, or just
my
the
sister Michelle?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
my other sister. I think she goes to church, but it's in some other church. Yeah.
And your younger brother?
My brother, he kind of goes. He goes to church, but yeah.
Still praying for him.
Yeah, I'm still praying for him.
Yes.
I love you, brother. You're watching. Yeah. So yeah.
How's your relationship with your father now?
That's good. It's good.
Still.
Yeah, he's always there. Like, something happens, like he's the dad. Like your car breaks down, like he'll go over there and help you with the car or whatever. Like,
is he open to the gospel or?
I'm still praying for my dad too.
Okay.
Yeah, he's open, but he just trying to get him to come in the church. To get him there.
Yeah.
But I mean, he believes in God and everything. But he just I'm praying for him too that he would surrender his heart to Christ. Yeah.
So you're involved in ministry. What do you see for the future of your life?
Oh, man, just doing whatever God calls me to do, man, whatever it is.
Good.
Right now, I've been doing song service. Sometimes pastor has to preach for him. So,
Nice.
just whatever God has called me to do, man. I'm
good.
still.
So you've done a couple of sermons?
Yes.
Nice.
Me and another brother there from the church.
Have you done a
Nice.
healing crusade?
Nah, I haven't done
Not
one
yet?
of those yet. Yeah. That might be something next. I don't know. Yeah. So just looking
Good.
forward to that,
Good.
just living for God, man. Just staying in the will of God and just continue to live for God, until the day, he calls me
Yes. Yeah.
and for my family, just living for God. That's it, man. Just coming to church and just being faithful and just, whatever God has called us to do, just staying in the will of God. That's the most
Good.
important thing.
Yes. Yes.
Well, good. So from your life, from your experiences in life, what advice would you give to anybody in your situation? So say somebody that's in their early 20s, that's all about that party life. They're not focused on anything else, job to job, relationship to relationship. You know what I mean? They probably, they haven't had their eyes opened yet to life. Like, what would you tell your younger self in that same position?
man, I just say, man, like that only lasts for a time, man. Like it's like a season, man. Like it's just, you know, all that. It's fun for a moment, but then after that, you know, you're gonna still be longing for something, man. Like there's something in your heart that's missing, man. The only one that can fill that is God, man. Because that's the way I was for a long time. Like I like partying and drinking and all that. It was for a moment, you know. But then I was at the end of the night when I would get home, I was still broken, and I was still just lost in my mind and sin, you know, like just broken, man. Like that's not the way you have to go. Like, you know, God has great things for us, man. And you know, if I can give you an advice, I just say that the best thing you can do is just give your life to Christ, man, and live for God, man. There's hope, man. Like, you know, you don't have to live like broken and tired and hopeless, and you know, like not knowing, like, you know, just like where you're gonna go. You know, when you know that Christ, man, is the only way, man. He's the way, the truth, and the life, man. He's the only way the one to follow, man. And you know, this world there's nothing in this world that can give you joy like God can, man. And just give, if you're struggling or battling with alcohol or anything like that, man, I just say just give it to God, man. God can take that. He did it to me. He can do it for you, man.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for joining us. That was a good testimony.
Yes, thank you.
I think it's a good testimony for a few reasons. I think one is just the little seeds that God plants, right? Like with your experience as a 10-year-old going to Pastor Ruby's church, you know what I mean? We didn't talk about how your mom ended up going to that church, but I mean, did she get invited? Which you said it's by her house, so was it just kind of
well, at the time, I think it was because we used to live on the west side. Pastor Ruby's church was on the west side, on Imperial Ballroom by the Kelly Air Force Base. Okay. And I was saying at the time, I don't even remember how I was going to ask her, and I forgot. But she got invited through somebody there, and they're still there. Like some of from when I was younger, like the older generation that's still there. They're still there.
Pillars.
Yeah, the pillars, exactly. They're still there, and they still remember me. They're like, hey, Miss Eleanor. I don't know if y'all know Miss Eleanor from Pastor Ruby's, but she's still there, and she'll talk to me. She still knows my mom. When she goes over there, she'll talk to her and stuff like that.
But see, that's cool though. When, you know, from a young age, you had that little, you know, that seed, and your sister had it. You know what I mean? And then years later, it draws your sister back, which then pulls you back. Right. You know, so it's kind of cool just to see how. I find it interesting in all these podcasts, just to see how God moves in people's lives. Like you don't know about it. Like Pastor TJ and Desiree's had really good ones, where just from their childhood, you can see God is kind of imparting little things in their life that is going to come to fruition later. You know what I mean? That kind of ties the picture together. Right. You know what I mean? So I like seeing that about everybody's testimonies. Right. So seeing that, and then also just that tug from the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, that just, you know, when you just felt this overwhelming spirit to like, something's wrong with your life. Like this isn't, you have a greater calling. There's something out there, and you just, you know what I mean? So,
and there was times like that, like I didn't say it, but like within the time when I was living in sin, like I remember there was times when I was in places that I shouldn't have been. And I remember one time I was at a bar or something like that, right? And I felt like it was say it in a nice way, it was at a bar, right? It was somewhere bad. It was bad.
It was a bar.
Yeah, it was a bar. That's the nice way to say it.
Like you stayed with friends.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and I felt like God was dealing with me, like, you know, if you were to die tonight, like where would you go? I heard like a voice tell me that, and I was just like kind of like, man, like it kind of just made me think, man, like if I was to die right now, I knew enough to where I knew that I wasn't gonna go somewhere else, you know, nice. And I kind of ignored it because I was just kind of like still like living in my sin. I just kind of like clueless, like just didn't bother with it. Kind of went back doing my own thing. And then there was another time, like the same thing. Like I was at a party, and it was at night, and I was kind of just drinking, and I was just looking up at the sky, and like I heard the same, like the voice, like, if you were to die tonight, like where would you go? Like it just kept bothering me, and I was just like, man, like, and now that I look back, I'm like, man, like that was God, like that was calling me, man, like saying, you know, like, you know, like God wanted to save me, man, and he was crying out to me, you know, and it kind of like, you know, I was living in sin, and you know, that God still cares so much for me that he still spared me, man, that, you know, that I would still be able to leave from that, you know?
Yes.
And come to Christ, you know, even though I went through all that, you know, all that depression, whatever whatever it was, it brought me to God, you know. And I mean, I'm glad for that, you know, because I could have died so many times in my sin, you know, and I could end up being somewhere that I wouldn't want to be, you know. And it's only by the grace of God that I'm still here, you know, and just still living for God. And
Good. Yeah. So that's another one. And then also, you know, you contending for your wife.
Yes,
for years
I was going to
and
say
years.
that. Yeah.
oh yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's like
Not
that's
giving up.
yeah, it was rough, but I kept contending, like keep going.
That's a major victory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's awesome how, you know, God worked in your life and where you're at now and what obviously God planned for your lives. You know what I mean? Because He didn't get you to this point just for you just to be here. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like there's
more
calling. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's like, well, it's good to see what's going to happen in your life. So
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Well, good, man. Well, thanks for sharing with us.
Yes. Thank
That
you
was
for
awesome.
coming.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you guys for watching this episode. Tune in next time. And we'll see you later.
Bye.
Yeah, probably like 8th grade year, 9th grade, I kind of started sneaking out of my window because my mom was like, come home at 9. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I want to hang out. I want to be home at 9. Like, who comes home at 9? So she always had this, you know, curfew on me. And I'm like, so, and my mom was, she wore the pants in the relationship, honestly. Like,
Okay.
my dad was more like, whatever your mom says. And I'm like, why can't it be whatever you say? Like, why? Like, okay. But so every time, you know, we'd have to ask my mom, and she was kind of always tough on us. So I don't know if y'all remember, on Sunday nights, we used to cruise Military Drive in the South Side. All the cars would line up and you would just cruise up and down Military, just people hanging out. So me and my friends, we're like, yeah, let's go to Military. So here we are, like 8th grade, 9th grade. She would take off in her mom's car and she would pick me up.
I was going to say, who had the car?
Yeah, she would steal her mom. I was with their dad for 5 years.
Oh, okay, for a while.
Yeah. I
You
was
say
with
their
them.
dad. Did you have another child
Yes.
with him?
So then I had my second son. I had my second son, Joel. So I had my son when I was 18, and then I dropped out of high school. I dropped out my senior year. I was like 3 months shy off graduating, but it got real hard. I'm dealing with a preemie because I had him early.
Oh, okay.
So he had complications. So I was young and I was trying to deal with that. And my mom was she was there for me, but she wanted me to take on that full responsibility because she's like,
you need to do it on your own.
You need to do it on your own. You
Yeah.
got yourself in this situation. You have to do it. So, you know, I had to step up. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I have to do what I have to do. He had a lot of, specialist appointments and stuff because he was born really early. He only weighed 3 pounds. I would just tell him why do you do this to me? Like, you know, all the relationships that I've been through already, like they've all failed. And then here I am again with you. And then you're like pushing me away. Like you're treating me this way. Like why? And he would just tell me, well, I'm not ready to settle down. Like I'm not ready. I want to do, I still want to do my own thing. Because he was a big, partier. Like he loved to go out and party and drink. And I did too. But then part of me was more like, I wanted to be with him. So I kind of pushed that to the side and I'm like, well, I want to be with you. Like, or why don't we do it together? And he was like, well, yeah. But I guess he didn't want his like side chicks to see. So he was like,
You're a Krampus style.
Yep. So he would kind of just like, nah. So he would do the great escape. Like he would come and try to hurry up and grab his stuff. But as soon as I would open the door, like getting home, I could smell like the whole bottle of cologne. I'm like, man, I was like, that was hard watching him go through that. Just from one day to the next, one day being normal to the next day, like your whole world being like torn up, like upside down. Like he just called one day and he was crying. I'm like, what the heck? Like what happened? Like, what's the matter? And he's like, I don't know. I can't stop crying. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, just stop crying. And he's like, I can't. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, it's just this feeling I have. I can't shake it off. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, what's bothering you? He really didn't want to tell me too much. So, and I guess we started kind of not drifting, but he was always at church, like constantly, like on Wednesdays, on Sundays. There was outreach, there was stuff going on at church. So I started seeing him, being more involved. And I was like, what the heck? Don't forget you have me, like I'm still here and stuff. So he's like, I told you, like, I'm not playing, like I'm done. Like, I don't want to do any of that stuff anymore. Like, I'm completely done with it. Like, I'm not, God saved me. Like, and this is what I want to do. Like, I want to go to church. And he's like, you can come with me. Like, you come. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's for you, not for me.
Yeah.
So I was battling some stuff in my mind, and I was just kind of going through it, but I didn't really say too much. I didn't really express it. I just kind of held it in. You know, and I was just like, man, I'm tired of this. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm living 2 different lives is just insane. It's tough. It's time consuming. It was hard on me with trying to work, raise kids. I was trying to still be there for Mike, and I was just like, it's hard. It's hard living a double life. I'm like, I don't know how people can live double lives. That's hard. I'm like, I can't do this. So it was really, really tough going through that. So I was just like, you know what? I'm completely done. I was like, God, I'm done. I'm ready. And it was more on my time and God's timing, not Mike's timing, because he was